As the consumption of sports media continues to change, I can tell you one thing. My guest today is ahead of the times and understanding the footprint that is needed to be had, the niche in this ever-changing landscape in golf media. He has found that. He's going to talk about how he has done that here today. I'm Bryan Fenley, and it's Ryan Ballengee joining me, owner of Golf News Net. This is a multimedia Golf Empire. They're covering all the tours. They've got all the podcasts, the content galore, working with different pro associations, and it is just a hotbed for content that golf lovers would enjoy. Ryan, thanks so much for being a part of this.
Brian, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I would gather that if somebody cannot find you on a golf course, they can find you editing or behind a computer. How much of your waking hours are either spent on the course or in front of a computer?
It's probably way more the latter than the former. I think anyone that works in golf will tell you the big myth is that we play a lot of golf. I've probably played less golf in the last 12 to 18 months than I have since I've been an adult, which is kind of weird to say, but that's because we're trying to work on a lot of things in our business. But I would say I probably devote, you know, 12 to 14 hours a day of my life to the business. And whether that's creating content, whether it's editing, like you talked about, video has become a much bigger part of our portfolio in the last 18 months or so. We still do a lot of writing. We still have a functioning daily website that has its own needs and demands. So it's a labor of love. I mean, I get out to play when I can, and been playing a little bit more this year than last year, which has been good. But um, when you pair work with doing something you love, it kind of becomes a little bit less of a hobby, right? Over time, you kind of I have found myself pouring more interest and attention into the stuff I'm learning, which is running a business, video editing, distribution, advertise. I mean, all kinds of stuff that I'm a junkie for that kind of stuff. And I'm still learning about golf too. I mean, I've been playing golf for 30 years and I'm still learning to get better at certain things. I think both of those things are addictive to me. That's why I love both of the things that I do.
What was missing in the way that golf was covered that Golf News Net has come in and filled that void?
That's a good question. I don't know that it's necessarily a void. Um, I think that we try to kind of take a different spin on things than maybe some of our peers, and maybe we've influenced it a little bit over the years, and maybe they've influenced us some over the years, kind of a push and pull. I've always tried to think about the content that we create as being informative for the golf fan, giving them what they want to know clearly, concisely, full of information, good personality to it, as opposed to giving them what I think they should know.
Hmm.
Trying to think about it from the consumer's perspective, so that they walk away thinking they didn't waste their time reading or watching or listening. They came away with something they didn't know, and they feel like a smarter fan or a smarter golfer because of that.
The the very start, and obviously, yes, as you said, people are definitely going to be smarter when they indulge in your content. At the very beginning of building this, if I'm not mistaken, it was right around 2012 or in that area. What was it like having to really double down on this sense of self-belief that even though you were building something from scratch, and as you're trying to build this thing, whatever critiques or responses you're getting, that you know you have a good product, and no matter what everybody else is saying, that you're just going to continue to work at what you're doing and grow this thing.
I mean, I think for anybody who does starts their own business, there's some element of self-delusion, right? Like you you have to believe you're somehow special enough to do this as opposed to maybe 10 other people that haven't done it before, or whatever. So I mean, there's some component of that that is maybe too much self-confidence, probably. But you also have to come into it with a plan. You have to come into it with a clear mindset of what you're trying to accomplish. And at the same time, you also have to come into it being willing to change. I think a lot of folks, and me included, find their success from starting with a good idea, but then not being so rigid that you can't change it. It's not malleable. You can't make it a little bit different than what you originally intended with evidence, with data. I'm very much a data driven person in the decisions we make around our business. Um, I let the numbers kind of tell me what's working. I try things, right? And if the numbers tell me that's a bad idea, then we stop doing them. I'm not so proud that I feel like I have to kind of shove a square peg in a round hole to get no results. Um, and I think that's really come a long way is kind of being open to opportunities, being open to what your audience tells you, being open to what the data tells you, how they react to things, and then take that with the spirit of your conviction and your idea behind it and mold it into something that hopefully turns out to be successful.
What is the data showing you that which is most popular about what people are flocking to when they visit Golf News Net?
So things have kind of changed, and then in some ways they're really still the same. Um, when we were mostly a written enterprise, we tried to give people information about golf tournaments and the rules of golf and the culture of golf that were maybe friendly to search engines. Well, that's kind of changed, right? I mean, the search engines aren't as big of a driver as traffic. AI has kind of changed how people search for answers. So that doesn't necessarily result in people coming to see your stuff. So it's now delivering some of that information, but in different ways. So we do it with social posts, with video, short form video, distributed video, with our podcasts and our podcast network, our radio network. So quarter of that is owned and operated, but 75% of that is not. So it's finding programming that we think fits the spirit of what we're trying to do, but isn't our stuff. So that's a different way of doing it. We launched Golf News Net TV last October, and again, we own about a quarter of the content, but 75% of it we don't. So it was going and finding that content that I, as a consumer, had been watching for years because I'm a golf junkie just as much as anyone else reading or watching my stuff, and going to those people and trying to forge partnerships, forge relationships that could be mutually beneficial for their distribution, their bottom line, and ours too. So I don't think the quality the spirit of the content, the topic matter really hasn't changed that much. It's giving people information about professional golfers, professional golf tournaments, what they say, how they react, how they think, how they approach the game, and also informing people who love to play golf about great places to play, great equipment, uh, ways to get more involved with the sport. Maybe just answering basic questions that they're kind of too afraid to ask the person they're playing with. Um, it's just the delivery method that's probably changed more than anything.
You guys deliver a lot of news when it comes to the Corn Ferry Tour, and that's why I'm drawn a lot to what you do because I do feel like there isn't enough being done, and thank goodness for the concentrated content that you and can I give Brennan Sweeney a shout out here? I know you guys are doing a lot of stuff, and I've seen interviews that you've done with golfers on the Corn Ferry Tour. What do they say about this platform that you're providing and I guess a level of gratitude that you'll talk to players about and what they're saying about it?
Corn Ferry Tour is a really interesting place, Brian, because it's this kind of melting pot of different players at different points in their careers. So there are guys who are fresh out of college who have very limited professional experience. This is really kind of um, their first run to try to get to the PGA Tour, their first true life on the road experience as a professional. There are guys who have played the Corn Ferry Tour for a while or just kind of getting to it from maybe playing mini tours. Maybe they weren't quite good enough to kind of start out at this level, but they've worked their way up for one reason or another. And this is kind of with the highest point they've reached. And then there are guys who have been to the PGA Tour and they've either had some success or they had a limited time there, but for whatever reason they've lost the game that keeps them on the PGA Tour, and the margins are super fine. So it's a really interesting mixing bowl of the people that we talk to for the Road to French Lick, the show that we do, and they all kind of have this in common thing of this desire to get to the PGA Tour in the next year, right? And they know that this is going to be the year that they're on, hopefully the one year that they're on the Corn Ferry Tour before they get back. But they know the competition is extremely steep. Only 20 guys get PGA Tour cards. It was 30 in the prior year, prior few years, but now it's back to 20 because the PGA Tour's qualification process has changed a little bit. And it's an interesting environment because they all know that there's only 20 spots. So less, basically 10% of the regular players on the tour are going to graduate. That leaves another 180 whose lives will still be in some kind of limbo against their goal. And yet still, they talk to us with a smile on their face. They're grateful for the opportunity to be able to even have a shot at playing on the PGA Tour, to get back to what all of that means. And there's a lot of upgrades that come with that from going from the Corn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour. But they all seem extremely grateful for it. They seem grateful for the coverage. Golf Channel covers 10 to 12 events per year. There's 26 on the schedule this year, and most of their television coverage is concentrated to the back end of the season. So they broadcast the last 5 tournaments. They broadcast the first two, and then in between, there's not a whole lot. So fans kind of miss the story of the rise of the season. They catch the end and they catch the beginning. So we are kind of that storytelling arc in the middle when a lot of the sausage, frankly, is made. And you kind of catch people at these somewhat vulnerable moments when they don't know how it's going to work out. They don't, I mean, from one week to the next, you never know who's going to win. We've had only one person has had a 2-win season so far on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he just accomplished that in the last tournament. So, and almost anyone can win. These guys know it. They know they're 1 week away from potentially changing their life for the better to the tune of millions of dollars. And I think that's something worth documenting, and they think it is too. So it's kind of cool to meet in the middle and say, hey, let's talk about where you are today. And hopefully, 6, 9, 12 months from now, we're talking about what you've accomplished getting to the PGA Tour, winning on the PGA Tour. I mean, we've had in the last 2 weeks, Aldrich Potgieter from South Africa, who was the last guy to get his card from the French Lick tournament last year from the season ending list, and Brian Campbell, who graduated last year as well, getting back to the PGA Tour after a 7-year absence. Both of those guys won in the last 2 weeks on the PGA Tour. One is the longest guy on the PGA Tour. He's 20 years old. He's from South Africa. He's got the whole world, his whole life in front of him. And then you've got Brian Campbell, who's in his mid 30s. He didn't even think he would be able to win on the PGA Tour. He was just happy to be there. Now he's won twice in playoffs this year. He is the shortest guy off the tee on the PGA Tour. He's 171 out of 171. And Aldrich Potgieter is the longest guy on the PGA Tour, and they won in back-to-back weeks. It's kind of wild how good these players are, that they can do what they do with whatever their talent is. That it's that good that the shortest guy on the PGA Tour can win twice in a single season is astounding to me. But you don't know about those stories without the Corn Ferry Tour being there to give them an opportunity to hone their craft and get back to the PGA Tour.
There are so many unique trends that allow a golfer to be as good as they are, and you said it. It's kind of like the shorter hitters, say like a Fred Funk back in the day, where you've got that not limiting somebody, and then you've got big hitters off the tee. So to win in a variety of different ways and to see all that play out, and then to know that you were one of the first before they went on to explode onto the scene at the next level. How much pride do you take at Golf News Net in being one of the first, especially on the Corn Ferry Tour, to give guys their due recognition before, say, the masses, everybody wants to talk to them and they're getting hit up constantly and their agents are having to say, okay, yes to this interview, no to this one, and their schedule is booked.
Yeah, it is really interesting. The relationships that we form, even with guys on the Corn Ferry Tour before they win on the Corn Ferry Tour, is a thing. Because I mean, a lot of these kids who come out that are younger, they come out with a lot of hype because they played D1 collegiate golf. They were accomplished in some reason. Uh, they have a lot of hype around them, but then you get humbled pretty quickly when you realize that you're playing against 190 other guys that, frankly, can beat you any day of the week. Um, you realize really quickly that you're a small fish in a small pond. And that is a big mindset change for a lot of guys. And then you kind of struggle for a year or two and you kind of flop about and you got to find your way. That's how most guys do it. Very few guys just breeze through the Corn Ferry Tour, get to the PGA Tour. It just doesn't work that way. And you have to learn how to travel and where to go and where to stay and the courses of how you go from having a posse of friends at college to you and your caddy or you and your girlfriend or you and your whoever that travel with you consistently. It's a steep learning curve, and you can kind of lose your way a lot really quickly. And then we want to talk to you because we've seen it. Like we've seen what those experiences are like. We're just as interested in that at this stage of your career as when you go win a $1.5 million check for winning a PGA Tour event. Frankly, I'm more interested in it about how you persevere and get to that point. If you got that far, what's to stop you from taking the last step? It feels like these first steps are the hardest. Getting there is a little easier, I think. Um, so when we talk to those guys, either at whatever stage they are in their Corn Ferry Tour journey, and then they get to the PGA Tour, they win on the Corn Ferry Tour, they seem really appreciative that we took an interest in their story before it got broadcast to the world.
Yeah.
And that's a relationship building thing that hopefully long continues well past, their Corn Ferry Tour days. Long may they have a great PGA Tour career. And, when we go cover a PGA Tour event or Golf Newsnet outside of the Road to French Lick show, go talk to those guys, and you know, they're open to talking. They want to talk because they know you're not there kind of as a vulture. You're there because you were there and you're interested in as human beings.
That's the greatest point I think I could take from what you guys are doing and how beneficial that's got to be in separating you from other platforms is just the diligent approach. And players are, as you know better than anybody, Ryan, the visibility of you being there and knowing like you're always on the road and you're in front of your computer and it's a nonstop. I mean, you said it 12 to 14 hours a day, you're churning out content and players are seeing this stuff that's coming out. But when you're there and you've created a visibility and the players are seeing you in person and you're regularly showing up, how does that allow you not only to to get those stories that you're talking about, but to then find the time and with them, the players being open to it, to get into some interviews that are hard hitting, more emotionally provoking, possibly because they're comfortable because of the visibility of you being there and how important that is to your product too, and in the minds of the players.
I mean, I think that's true of anything in life, right? I mean, you build a relationship with somebody, the more vulnerable they're likely to become, not because, we on our end just want them to be vulnerable, but because we're having an honest conversation. There's no gotcha question. There's no attempt to make you cry or whatever. We just want you to be you. We want you to tell your story how you want to tell it. And everybody's a little bit different. Some guys are more stoic, some guys are more effusive. Everybody's different personality type. But I mean, golf invites a lot of introverts, right? I mean, it's a lonely sport that tends to work for a lot of introverts. So getting them to tell their story in their way versus, some of the guys that we also have on the show are total extroverts and they'll tell anybody anything. They'll talk to a perfect stranger. So it's trying to kind of figure out who they are and where they're coming from and how they want to tell their story. And I think just showing up goes a long way to that, of consistently being there, not just being there for 7 days or 4 days or whatever for a tournament Thursday through Sunday, but being there consistently, creating content. The first season of it, this is the second season we've done this. The first season of it, I mean, I think Brendan and I were thinking, let's figure out how to do this, and then let's see where it goes. And now more in the second season, it's all right. Well, now there's recognition that we cover the Corn Ferry Tour. The players know it, agents know it, tournaments know it. The tours, much. I mean, they were helpful in the first season. They're more helpful now. There's a recognition that hey, you guys weren't just doing this for fun. You do this because you care, and there's a reason to do it, and that gets rewarded not only in this, but I mean, I think anything in life. You keep showing up is 90%, right, of life. If you show up long enough, eventually people will recognize what you're trying to do, and they might be helpful enough to ask if they can help some way in some fashion.
So well said, and the credibility continues to grow, as you said, because of the visibility, because you're there, because you have the trust, and it's good to hear that all of the pro golf leagues, be it Corn Ferry, PJ Tour, or whatnot, they're being helpful and seeing the importance of the work that you're doing and its value. Where to me, what you're doing is it's limitless. What this can turn into. What about where the future of where you're going is with Golf News Net? Do you feel like is limitless?
I mean, there's always a cap on what you can accomplish. I just don't know what that cap is, right? I've largely been a one man full time band for the vast bulk of my writing life and now media life. That's kind of changed with the radio and TV. Yeah, they're not direct employees, but I feel like I represent them in everything that we do, um, and can't let them down. I have to keep their interests in mind and try to do that in radio and TV. And then with what's coming with our um, on-demand service, which would be called Watch Golf, um, available on CTV platforms. Again, we want to represent the people that are providing the content, our own content, the people who watch our content from a kind of endemic perspective, the tours, um, equipment manufacturers, entrepreneurs in the golf space, um, sponsors. I mean, there's a lot of people to kind of keep in mind, but the idea that we can deliver content that still keeps to what we've been trying to accomplish, but do it in new and different ways. That's really kind of the limitless part of it, I guess, is that content delivery is going to change. It's already changing. I mean, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we do so much more video than we did a year ago. 50-fold more video than we did a year ago. And that has proven to be a great way of delivering our content to people and other people's content for that matter. Okay, well, how do we do that on smaller screens? How do we do that on bigger screens? Bigger screen habits are evolving too. Uh, Augmented reality is coming faster than we probably realize. Um, how do you deliver content to those folks? Is there content to deliver to those folks? Um, Try to keep an eye toward that. I'm not the biggest AI user in the world, but AI and chatbots and things like that. That stuff's coming along. You can't ignore it. You have to at least acknowledge that that's coming along, whatever that looks like. Be prepared for that. That stuff's the limitless part. I don't think the philosophy changes. I don't think the mission really changes. Uh, it's just trying to keep up with how the consumer wants to keep up with golf.
It was clear before this conversation. It is even more clear in getting a chance to talk to you that what you're doing is the future. And you have gained such a foothold over the industry, and it truly was a joy. And wrapping up this conversation, Ryan, to be able to talk about the inner workings of what you're doing in your team at Golf News Net, the amount of hours expended, the showing up, and the content galore. I encourage everybody to go check out Golf News Net and their wide range of content. I don't know how you have enough hours in the day, Ryan, to do all of this, but it surely is an honor to have you on. And thanks for giving us the behind the scenes tour of what you've built and where it's going and how it's been so well and why it's been so well received by the golf community.
Well, it's a pleasure being on with you, Brian. Thank you so much for reaching out and having us. And we're just a small group of people trying to toil away at something we love, just like everybody else. And if we're doing a good job with that, then mission accomplished, and everything else takes care of itself.